Welcome to Edu Power Talks, your go-to channel for unlocking the power of education and skill development. Here, we dive into transformative tips, expert insights, and inspiring stories to help students, professionals, and lifelong learners in Kenya and beyond achieve their dreams. Whether you're preparing for exams, building your career, or seeking personal growth, this is the place to be. Subscribe now and join the Edu Power Talks community as we empower you to learn, grow, and thrive. Listen to the hosts now.
All right, let's dive in. We're tackling essential career skills today. Those kind of things that can make or break you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're looking at a guide that's really interesting.
It's aimed at people just graduating, which is cool, but honestly, there's good stuff here for anyone, no matter where you are in your career. Like, even I picked up some tips.
For sure, it's back to basic stuff, but in a really smart way.
So first up, communication.
Oh, here we go.
I know, right? Sounds basic. But this guide, it goes deeper than just talk nice, look them in the eye kind of stuff.
Totally. It's about how we communicate that matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And active listening, that's where they start, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, the guide makes a big deal about that because you can talk all you want, but if you aren't really hearing the other person...
Game over.
Basically, it's like in a salary negotiation. Or when your boss is giving you feedback. Like those high-pressure moments, active listening, that's what can make you win or totally lose.
Makes you think, it's not just about saying your piece. It's got to be about really taking in what the other person is saying, too.
All those cues, verbal and nonverbal, it's all part of the message.
Speaking of nonverbal, I never realized how much I, furrow my brow when I'm concentrating. Until a coworker told me it makes me seem unapproachable in meetings.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was like, really? But it's true. We all have those little things we do without realizing.
The guide even gets into body language decoding, like how to tell if someone's arms crossed means they're defensive, or if they lean forward, maybe they're really interested. It's like a secret code.
Super interesting. Okay, so we've got communication down. Next up, teamwork. Now, I'm a pretty collaborative guy, but even I struggle with conflicts sometimes. Like, when you're on a team, it's bound to happen.
Totally, but it's about how you handle that conflict. And this guide, it talks about doing it constructively.
Okay, so instead of avoiding it completely.
Exactly. It's about using it to get to better solutions. Like, a disagreement doesn't have to be a bad thing.
It's about different perspectives, right? Like, everyone sees things differently.
And the guide goes into communication styles, too. Some folks are direct, others are more careful with their words. Understanding that can prevent so many problems.
And even use those differences to the team's advantage.
Right.
I'm seeing how this all ties together, Good communication helps you work better as a team, which then helps you when it's time to solve problems, which is what's next, right? Problem solving.
You got it. And this is where it gets fun. The guide moves beyond the typical brainstorm stuff. They talk about specific ways to get better at analyzing things, thinking critically.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, they talk about breaking a big, complicated problem down into smaller, manageable parts, or using things like the 5 whys technique to figure out the root of a problem.
5 whys. What's that?
Basically, you keep asking why until you get to the very core of the issue.
So you're not just fixing the symptoms, you're going for the source.
Exactly. It's powerful stuff, and you can use it for anything, not just work stuff.
Like figuring out why your car's making that weird noise or your computer's acting up.
See? It's applicable to so much.
Okay, we've got communication, teamwork, problem solving.
Yeah.
What else is there?
Oh, this one's a doozy. Time management, the universal struggle, right?
Don't even get me started. I feel like I'm constantly chasing the clock.
But what I liked about the guide is it acknowledges there's no one right way. It's about finding what works for you. So maybe it's the Pomodoro technique, or maybe it's just a good old to-do list.
You just got to experiment. Find your system.
Exactly. And they even get into why we procrastinate, which I thought was cool.
Oh yeah, all those mental traps. Got to watch out for those. Okay, so we've done communication, teamwork, problem solving, time management. What's the last one?
The grand finale. Never stop learning.
I knew it. I bet this is more than just reading a book now and then.
You know it. The guide is all about how the world changes so fast you got to keep up. Skills you have today might be useless tomorrow.
So it's like constantly leveling up.
Yeah. Exactly. And that can be formal learning, sure, but it can also be online courses, conferences, even just following the right people on social media.
It's about being curious, really.
And making learning a habit, not a chore.
I like that. Okay, so all these skills, they're all connected, huh?
Oh, yeah. Big time. Strong communication makes you a better team player, which makes you a better problem solver. It all builds on itself.
And it never stops.
Uh-huh.
Got to keep learning and growing. I'm feeling inspired, I got to say.
That's what we like to hear. But we've only scratched the surface here. There's so much more to dig into. Welcome back. So we talked about those essential career skills: communication, teamwork, problem solving, time management, and never stopping learning. But now let's actually talk about how to improve these skills, how to level them up.
The knowing is only half the battle, right?
Yeah.
It's the doing that counts.
Totally. And the guide jumps right into it, starting with communication. They actually talk about the importance of writing, which I thought was interesting.
Writing, you mean like emails and stuff?
Yep. Emails, reports, proposals, all that.
I'll be honest, I'm more of a quick message kind of guy myself. Get to the point, you know?
I feel you. But good writing, it can make a huge difference in your career. Think about it. A clear email, that prevents misunderstandings. A killer proposal, that can win you a client. Or a well-written report that impresses your boss.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's not just about grammar. It's about being persuasive, being clear.
Exactly. And the guide has some tips on how to do that. One that I liked was this thing called the inverted pyramid approach. It's a journalism thing where you put the most important info first, then get into the details. Makes your writing super impactful.
Oh, that's smart. Like giving the reader a roadmap.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when it comes to actually speaking, like giving presentations or whatever, practice makes perfect, obviously. But the guide has this cool tip about recording yourself talking.
Recording?
Yep, then you listen back and analyze it. Do you use filler words like or like too much? Are you rushing?
I bet I say a lot.
Probably. But it's about becoming aware of those habits so you can work on them.
That's actually really smart.
Yeah.
Okay, now what about teamwork? We talked about conflict, but any advice on how to prevent it in the first place?
Oh, good question. The guide talks a lot about setting clear roles and responsibilities from the beginning. When everyone knows what they're supposed to do, who's in charge of what, less chance of things getting messy.
That makes sense. It's like having a game plan for the whole team.
Right. And it also ties back to communication. If everyone's clear on their role, they can communicate better too. Now, problem solving. Remember that 5 whys technique we talked about?
Yeah, I like that one.
Well, the guide also talks about having a solution-oriented mindset.
What does that mean exactly?
It's about not dwelling on the problem itself, but focusing on how to fix it. So instead of, oh no, everything's terrible, it's, okay, what can we do about this?
I like that. It's proactive.
Exactly. And it can apply to so many areas of life, not just work. Now, time management, that beast.
Ugh, yeah. Tell me about it. I make to-do lists that are a mile long and never finish them all.
I hear you. But there's this really interesting point the guide makes. It's not just about managing your time. It's about managing your energy.
Your energy.
Yeah, think about it. You might have 8 hours blocked off for work. But if you're tired, mentally drained, those 8 hours aren't going to be very productive.
So it's about knowing when you work best.
Exactly. Schedule your most important stuff for when you're most alert. And they even say to schedule breaks for things like exercise or even just to chill out.
Because then you come back recharged.
Exactly. Working smarter, not harder. All right. We've talked communication, teamwork, problem solving, and time management. That leaves, you know what's coming.
Never stop learning.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that?
Well, the guide suggests making it a habit, literally block off time for it in your day, even if it's just 15 minutes. Read an industry article, listen to a podcast, watch a TED Talk.
So it's non-negotiable learning time.
Yep. And make it fun. Choose topics you're actually interested in.
Makes sense. But how do you know what to focus on? There's so much out there, so many skills to learn.
Good point. The guide talks about doing a skills gap analysis. Basically, you figure out what skills are in high demand in your field or for your dream job. Then you compare that to what you already know.
So you're not just reacting to what's trendy, you're being strategic.
Exactly. And once you know what those gaps are, you make a plan to fill them. Take an online course, go to a workshop, whatever works.
I'm getting so many good ideas from this.
That's great. But now, the real challenge. How do you show off all these awesome skills to potential employers?
Yeah, because we can have all the skills in the world, but if we can't communicate them, it won't matter much, right?
Exactly. And that's where part 3 comes in. We're going to dive into resumes, interviews, and networking.
We're back, and we're ready to tackle the last piece of this career skills puzzle. We've got the skills, we know how to develop them, but now we got to show them off.
Time to impress those hiring managers. And this guide has some seriously smart advice on how to do that.
First up, the dreaded resume. I'll admit, mine could use some love. It feels like such a chore to update it.
I hear you, but the guide actually reframes it. It's not just a document, it's your personal marketing tool, your chance to tell your story, what makes you stand out.
Okay, that's a much better way to think about it. So it's not just listing everything you've ever done.
Nope. It's got to be tailored to the specific job you want. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but trust me, hiring managers can tell when you've put in the effort.
It shows you're serious, right? Like you actually care about that job, not just any job.
Exactly. And the guide talks about using strong action verbs.
Action verbs, like what?
Well, instead of saying responsible for managing social media, you'd say something like successfully grew social media engagement by 25%. See how that's more like active?
Oh yeah, it's way more impactful. You're not just doing stuff, you're making things happen.
That's the idea. And another thing they emphasize is quantifying your achievements.
Quantify.
Yeah, like using numbers to back up what you're saying. Don't just say you're a good problem solver. Give an example, like identified a problem that was costing the company X amount of dollars, implemented a solution, and saved them Y amount. Makes it real,
Show, don't tell. I'm seeing that theme a lot here.
It's all about the evidence. Now, let's talk interviews. This is where those communication skills we talked about really come in handy.
Interviews are the worst. I always get so nervous. Any tips on how to, chill out beforehand?
Oh, yeah. The guide had this great reframing tip. Instead of thinking of it as a test, think of it as a conversation. A chance to connect with someone, share your story, learn about the company.
Okay, that actually helps. Takes the pressure off a bit.
Right. And remember, the interviewer wants you to do well. They're trying to find the right person for the team.
It's in everyone's best interest.
Exactly. The guide suggests prepping for those common questions, but not in a robotic way. Like, really think about your experiences, what you're good at, what you need to work on, and be ready to tell stories.
Stories are so powerful. It's like, instead of just saying, I'm a hard worker, you tell a story about a time you went above and beyond on a project.
Exactly. And don't forget to ask questions, too. Show you're engaged, you're curious.
It's a two-way street, right? You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
Totally. Okay, last but not least, networking. I used to think networking was all about those awkward events with business cards flying everywhere.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
So forced.
Right. But the guide presents it differently. They say it's about relationship building, connecting with people, sharing ideas, helping each other out.
So it's more about being genuine, building connections that actually matter.
Exactly. And you never know what those connections might lead to. Job opportunities, mentorship, advice.
Makes sense. So how do you actually do that? Network, I mean.
Well, the guide suggests a mix of things. Go to industry events, sure, but also join online communities, connect with people on LinkedIn, and even reach out to people you admire for informational interviews.
Informational interviews, what are those?
It's basically just a casual chat with someone in your field. You pick their brain about their career path, what their job is like, that kind of stuff.
Sounds way less scary than a real job interview.
It is. And it's a great way to learn and expand your network. So that's it. We've covered essential career skills, how to develop them, and how to showcase them to the world.
My brain is full, but in a good way.
Yeah.
It's like I have a whole new toolkit for my career.
That's what we like to hear. But remember, the real work starts now. Go out there, put this stuff into practice, and make those career dreams a reality.
And never stop learning.
Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, that's a wrap for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time for more career-boosting goodness.
Thanks for joining us.